Okay, let's dive into something you probably don't think about every day, but it's absolutely critical. The global market for hazmat labels. We're talking about those, those stickers on packages, the ones that
Mhm.
signal danger, right? Flammable liquids, corrosive stuff, all that.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here is how these labels, let's say, seem simple, right? But they're actually a direct pulse on global trade. And logistics complexities, safety regulations, it's all connected. Our source for this deep dive is this really comprehensive report. It's from Cognitive Market Research. Gives us a detailed look, starting from 2021 and projecting all the way out to 2033.
Okay, so our mission today is basically to cut through that data, pull out the most important nuggets for you. We want to uncover just how big this market really is, where it's headed globally, and then, yeah, zero in on those regional differences. Some surprising growth pockets in there, too. You might be genuinely surprised at what's driving this seemingly niche industry. So let's start with the big picture then. You might not notice them, but these labels, big business. In 2021, the global hazmat labels market generated sales revenue. Get this, over $1.37 billion.
Yeah, billion with a B. It's a huge number for something, like you said, most people probably don't consciously register.
Exactly.
And connecting that to the bigger picture, it's not static. The report projects this market hitting nearly 1.65 billion by 2025 and then surging over 2.4 billion by 2033.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a consistent upward trend. We're looking at a global compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of just under 5%, 4.807% to be
Okay,
precise.
nearly 5% globally.
Right. And a steady CGR like that, well, it tells you something fundamental, doesn't it? It means increasing volume, increasing complexity of goods being shipped all over the world for over a decade, consistently.
Okay, so consistently growing market worldwide. Makes sense. But where's the real action happening? You mentioned regional differences.
Right, this is where it gets really interesting. North America. It held the largest piece of the pie, clearly dominating. Back in 2021, the region reported sales over $546 million.
Okay, a big chunk of that global 1.37 billion.
Definitely. And it's projected to grow, too, over 926 million by 2023. That comes out to a solid CGR around 4.4%, about 4.376%, actually.
Still strong growth. And within North America. Is it
Well,
mostly the U.S.?
mostly, yeah. Diving deeper, the United States accounted for the lion's share, roughly 439 million in 2021, showing steady growth, about 4.17% CGR projected. But what's really notable, I think, are Canada and Mexico.
Oh, so.
Well, they both show higher projected growth rates, faster than the US-Canada, for instance. It's projected to grow from about 67 million in 2021 to over 123 million by 2033. That's a CIGR over 5.2%.
Okay, significantly higher than the U.S. rate.
Right. And Mexico's right there, too. CAGR over 5%, moving from about 41 million to nearly 74 million in that same period.
That's a really interesting point about Canada and Mexico growing faster. Does the report give any hints, like why the accelerated demand there compared to the U.S.?
It does, yeah. It suggests that for Canada, it's often tied to their energy sector exports, resource industries. Those frequently involve hazardous materials, so more labels needed as exports grow. And for Mexico, it seems to be the surge in manufacturing output.
Like automotive, electronics, maybe?
Exactly. Those regulated industries, they have really robust supply chains now, needing meticulous hazmat labeling,
Yeah,
for both domestic and international shipments. So those industries are expanding rapidly, driving higher demand for labels compared to maybe the more mature U.S. market.
that makes sense. Fascinating how those specific economic activities just directly ripple into something like label sales. Okay, now let's cross the Atlantic. Europe, similar story, mature markets, steady growth. Or are there some hidden surges there too?
Europe definitely holds a significant share, no doubt about that. The region generated over $393 million in 2021, projected to reach over $871 million by 2033. The CAGR there is respectable, about 4.5%, 4.487%.
Okay, so similar overall growth rate to North America, roughly.
Roughly, yes. But what's striking is the diversity within the continent. Real mixed bag. You've got countries like the UK, Germany. They show steady, consistent growth, around 3.6, 3.7% CAGR, which kind of reflects their established industrial bases,
Right, mature economies.
Exactly. But then you look at places like France and Italy. They exhibit more robust growth. KGR is well over 5%. France is actually over 5.8%.
Oh, wow. So what's driving that in France and Italy? New regulations, maybe?
That's a good possibility. Or maybe just an increase in cross-border trade of specific types of materials needing those labels. And it's really important not to overlook the rest of Europe category in the report.
Ah, the catch-all.
Right. It groups together lots of smaller markets, Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, but collectively, this group shows a very strong CAGR, over 5.8% as well, growing significantly from about 93 million to over 181 million projected.
So even the smaller players combined are making a big impact.
Absolutely. It's just a clear reminder, isn't it? You can't just generalize across a whole continent, the economic dynamics, the regulatory stuff. It creates very different landscapes for this market, even within Europe.
That's a great point. Okay, so let's keep moving east. Asia Pacific, I understand we see some truly impressive numbers there. Strongest growth overall, maybe?
You're right on track. Asia Pacific is definitely a powerhouse in this market. It grew from about $255 million in 2021, projected to hit nearly $485 million by 2033. And the CAGR reflects that, a very strong 5.75%.
Higher than North America and Europe.
Yep. And China and Japan are, predictably major contributors, massive manufacturing, massive exports. Their KJRs are both over 5.2%. So they're driving a lot of that demand.
Makes sense.
But India really stands out here. It demonstrates particularly strong growth, a really high TIGI of nearly 6.9%, almost 7%.
Whoa, 6.9%. That's huge.
It is. It means their market for these labels is projected to more than double in that forecast period, going from about 35 million in 2021 to over 75 million by 2033. And that's largely fueled by, rapid industrialization, urbanization, expanding manufacturing that needs strict safety compliance.
Right, as the economy grows, the need for this stuff just explodes.
Precisely. And beyond those giants, China, Japan, India, you've got South Korea, Australia, Singapore, Southeast Asia, all making significant contributions. Actually, Singapore and Southeast Asia are leading the region in growth rate. Their Ks are both over 7%.
Over 7%. Incredible. It really shows how interconnected these global economic trends are. Now, let's zoom in on some of the other key regions. You mentioned they present a varied landscape. Maybe some surprises.
Absolutely. Take South America, for instance. It showed pretty consistent growth. Market size increasing from about 95 million in 2021 to over 183 million by 2033. That's a solid CIG of almost 5.9%.
Okay, strong growth there too. Higher than North America and Europe again.
Yeah. Brazil leads the region,
Yeah.
naturally. But countries like Argentina, Colombia, Peru, they posted really robust KGR figures, over 6%. Suggests, significant infrastructure development, increasing trade activities needing these labels.
Okay, so South America is growing fast. What about the Middle East?
The Middle East. It tells a very different story. It's actually the region with the lowest KJR among all of them, just under 2.5%, 2.474%.
Wow, quite a contrast to Asia Pacific or South America.
Yeah, huge contrast. Sales moved from about 51 million in 2021 to projected around 72 million by 2033. It's almost like a slow trickle compared to the rapids we saw elsewhere. Countries like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, UAE, Egypt, Qatar, they showed stable, but definitely lower growth. It presents a different picture, maybe different regulatory environments, or perhaps just the type of hazardous materials being transported, less diverse maybe, different trade patterns.
Interesting. So a much slower pace there. But you mentioned surprises.
Right. This is where Africa comes in. What's truly fascinating here is Africa stood out with the highest AGR among all regions.
The highest. Higher than Asia Pacific.
Higher than Asia Pacific, just over 7.8%, 7.818%.
That's incredible. Off what kind of base?
Well, a smaller base, granted. It's projected to grow from roughly $30 million in 2021 to a significant $70 million by 2033. But think about that growth rate, 7.8%. The market there is projected to more than double in less than 10 years.
Amazing. Any specific countries driving that?
Yeah, both Nigeria and South Africa posted impressive CCRs, over 7.4% each. But the rest of Africa category, that actually led with the highest individual CGR, over 8.2%, growing from about 14 million to almost 33 million.
Wow. That really does exemplify how critical global trade and infrastructure are becoming in emerging markets, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Driving the need for essential safety stuff like hazmat labels as these economies connect globally.
Absolutely. It's a clear sign of integration and development needing these safety protocols.
Okay, so that's a staggering figure for Africa. So stepping back a bit, what does all this mean? What are the core, the fundamental drivers behind these numbers across the globe, from the steady giants to these rapid climbers?
Well, at its heart, it really comes down to three core engines. I think the report nails this. First, regulatory compliance. That's huge. Second, the expansion of global logistics. Just more things moving more places. And third, Simply the ever-increasing volume of global trade itself.
Right, regulations are key.
Absolutely. Think about it. Every single package, every shipment, especially if
Yeah.
it has hazardous materials, it demands strict adherence. These aren't suggestions, right? They're legal requirements set by international bodies, local rules. You need clear, standardized identification, period.
And as supply chains get more complicated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As supply chains get more complex, goods moving across more borders, the need for these labels just intensifies. It's this constant, non-negotiable need. Identify the risk, communicate the risk. That's what relentlessly fuels this essential industry. It keeps people safe and it keeps global commerce flowing.
Wow, okay, we've definitely unpacked a lot today. Moving from those huge global revenue figures down to the nuanced, sometimes really surprising, growth across continents.
Hmm.
You've really seen how a seemingly small detail, like a hazmat label, is just intimately connected to billions in global commerce.
Yeah.
The whole intricate dance of trade.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, it really highlights the often unseen infrastructure, doesn't it? The stuff that just underpins our modern world. From that robust growth in Africa and Asia Pacific to the steady, dominant expansion in North America, these labels are just critical, ensuring safety, ensuring efficiency in this massively interconnected global economy. They really are the silent sentinels of our supply chains.
That's a great way to put it. So what does this all mean for you listening? Well, next time you see a shipping container maybe, or a delivery truck, or even just read about global trade, you might just think about the incredible complexity behind it all. These hidden industries, like hazmat labels, working quietly, keeping us safe, keeping goods moving. It's pretty amazing when you stop to consider it.
It really is. And, this raises an important question looking forward. As global trade continues to evolve, think about new tech, AI in logistics, supply chains getting even more complex, more personalized goods, and of course, evolving environmental concerns, right? Influencing what's shipped, how it's shipped. How might the seemingly simple hazmat label need to adapt? And maybe what new industries or innovations might emerge around it to ensure even greater safety and compliance in the world of tomorrow.
That's a really good thought to end on. How does this fundamental piece evolve?
Oh.
Fascinating. All right, let's dive into something you might not think about every day, but it's absolutely foundational to global safety and commerce, actually. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the Hazmat Labels Market. Now, might sound niche, maybe a bit dry even, but as you shared your sources with us, it quickly became clear this is a really dynamic, critical piece of managing hazardous materials and logistics worldwide. Our mission, like always, is to sift through the info, pull out the key takeaways, and basically give you a shortcut to understanding this vital, often kind of hidden industry.
Yeah, and it's really impossible to overstate how important it is, seriously. In a world where industries are, well, they're navigating this maze of stricter and stricter regulations, hazmat labels aren't just some box-ticking exercise. They are the literal first line of communication, the first line of defense when you're handling dangerous goods.
Okay, so with that context, what exactly is fueling this market then? What are the big forces driving demand for what, on the surface looks like a pretty simple sticker?
That's the core question, isn't it? The first, and maybe the most obvious driver, is definitely strict international regulations. Think about acronyms like OSHA, that's the Occupational Safety and Health Administration in the US, or GHS, the Globally Harmonized System for Classifying and Labeling Chemicals, and the DOT, Department of Transportation.
Right, those big ones.
Exactly. These aren't just agencies. They're like the universal traffic signs for dangerous goods. They create a kind of shared language for safety all around the world. And that drives this consistent, non-negotiable demand for labels that are standardized, durable, and, importantly, highly visible. These labels are absolutely essential for making sure things are handled safely and legally across these incredibly complex logistics chains.
So it's not just a nice to have, it's a full-on regulatory mandate. Got it. And does this demand also sort of link up with the overall growth we're seeing in certain industries?
Precisely. That takes us straight to the second major driver, the growing footprint of the chemical, pharmaceutical, and, well, the logistics industries themselves. As these sectors expand globally, the sheer volume of hazardous materials being made, shipped, stored, it just skyrockets.
Makes sense.
And this naturally fuels a greater demand for really robust labeling solutions. It's not just about, slapping a sticker on a box. It's about ensuring meticulous traceability, preventing accidents, and, crucially, allowing for a rapid, informed response if something does go wrong, maybe in storage or during transit.
Okay. So beyond just the sheer amount of stuff moving around and the rules, it sounds like there's maybe a deeper shift happening too, a
Hmm.
societal one maybe, about how we value safety,
Yeah.
transparency.
Indeed. That's the third driver. There's a heightened and I'd say very welcome focus on worker and environmental safety. This isn't just some passing trend, it feels like a fundamental shift in priorities. And it translates directly into this growing reliance on clear, unambiguous hazard communication, often using advanced labeling tech. What's really compelling here is how this reflects a broader societal value. We're all demanding more transparency and safety when potentially dangerous materials are involved, from the factory floor right through to the products ending up in our homes.
Yeah, that makes total sense. But okay, with all this demand climbing and these really strict rules, it can't all be smooth sailing, right? What are the biggest headaches,
Yeah.
the roadblocks companies hit when they're trying to meet all these demands?
You're absolutely right. It's far from smooth. One major restraint, a big one, is the persistent lack of truly harmonized labeling standards across different regions. Imagine trying to ship a chemical, say, from Germany to China. What counts as toxic in one place might just be an irritant somewhere else. That leads to completely different handling procedures, different symbols needed, different warning phrases on the label itself.
Wow.
This inconsistency, it severely complicates global supply chains and, you can imagine, significantly bumps up the operational costs for companies just trying to comply with this patchwork of rules worldwide.
Yeah.
It really makes you wonder, how do companies manage this global puzzle without just getting completely bogged down?
That sounds like a bureaucratic nightmare, honestly.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I can imagine another concern. How do you even know the labels themselves are legitimate, trustworthy?
That's a critical point. A very serious issue in this market is label counterfeiting and tampering. Think about it. If a hazmat label is faked or deliberately changed, it just completely undermines safety. It misrepresents what's actually inside or the real hazards.
Dangerous.
Extremely. This isn't just, an economic problem for the manufacturers. It can lead to severe regulatory penalties, environmental damage, and most importantly, it puts lives at risk. People handling the materials get false information.
Yeah, okay. And with all this talk about materials, making the labels, shipping things, what about the environmental side of the labels themselves? Are there worries about the materials being used?
There are, definitely. We're seeing growing environmental worries about non-biodegradable label materials, specifically plastics like PVC.
Ah, PVC.
Yeah, polyvinyl chloride. It's common, but it's notoriously hard to recycle, and it can hang around in the environment for, well, centuries. So, as we all become more aware of plastic waste and its long-term impact, these concerns are really pushing the industry to look for greener, more sustainable alternative. It's a big challenge, no doubt, but it's also a powerful catalyst for innovation.
Okay, so if those are the big challenges, the harmonization mess, the counterfeiting, the environmental stuff, how are companies responding? What does this mean for the future? Especially with technology. Because, yeah, this definitely doesn't sound like a static industry.
Far from it. The market's actually seeing some really exciting technological shifts. One trend, which I find particularly fascinating, is the integration of smart labels. Think QR codes and RFID radio frequency identification built right in.
Okay, smart labels. How does that work?
Well, here's where it gets really impactful. Imagine a chemical spill, maybe in a remote area. A first responder, instead of digging through paper manifests, could just scan the label on the drum or package
Ah,
and instantly get access to real-time safety data sheets, emergency procedures, maybe even instructional videos right there on their device, directly from the label.
okay.
This isn't just about convenience, it's shaving critical minutes off response times. And that can literally mean the difference between containment and catastrophe, or even saving lives. So yeah, a simple-looking label becomes this gateway to a whole universe of critical information.
That's a huge leap for information access, definitely.
Yeah.
But what about the physical label? If it's out in the rain or it gets chemicals spilled on it or baked in the sun, it still needs to be readable, right?
Absolutely. Critically important. So alongside the smart tech, there's also this increasing demand for highly durable materials. Materials specifically designed to resist UV radiation, water, various chemicals, tough stuff.
Right.
This is paramount because it ensures the label stays legible for the long haul, even under really extreme conditions. I mean, a faded label or one that's peeling off or smudged, it's almost as dangerous as having no label at all. So that enhanced durability is crucial for maintaining safety throughout the entire life cycle of whatever hazardous material we're talking about.
Okay, durability is key. And what about efficiency? Customization. For the companies that actually need these labels, maybe quickly, maybe very specific ones.
Yeah, good question. We're seeing a really significant shift towards on-demand digital printing and in-house label customization. This basically lets organizations print exactly the labels they need, precisely when they need them, and in the exact quantities required. No more huge
All
stockpiles.
left waste.
Exactly. It makes compliance faster, more efficient, especially with regulations that can sometimes change. And like you said, it cuts down on inventory waste significantly. So it's a smart solution that tackles both cost efficiency and those environmental concerns by reducing overproduction and, labels becoming obsolete.
What an eye-opening deep dive. It really is incredible how much complexity, how much regulation, and innovation is hiding in something we probably just glance at most of the time. The hazmat labels market, yeah, it might seem like just a simple product category, but it's clearly this complex, absolutely critical part of global logistics and, well, global safety.
It truly is. And, if we sort of zoom out, connect this to the bigger picture, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other invisible pieces of infrastructure like this are working tirelessly behind the scenes, ensuring the safety, the efficiency of global commerce, or even just our everyday lives that we take for granted most of the time.
That's a powerful thought to end on. This deep dive has definitely shown us that even in topics that seem mundane on the surface, there's surprising depth and critical importance. So maybe next time you see a hazard label, you'll think about all the regulatory muscle, the tech innovation, the focus on safety that went into making sure it's there doing its vital job. Look for those hidden layers, those invisible pieces in your own everyday experiences. You might be surprised what you find.